The US Open is known for big matches, emotional victories, and unforgettable moments between athletes and fans. But this year, one of the most talked about moments had nothing to do with the scoreline. Instead, it was a short, awkward interaction that left millions of viewers stunned. The scene was simple. A professional tennis player walked over to the stands after his win, spotted a young fan, and reached out with a personal gift, his own cap. What should have been a wholesome moment turned sour in seconds. Before the child could take it, an older man leaned in, grabbed the hat, and claimed it for himself. The incident was caught on live broadcast and replayed online from every angle. Viewers described it as greedy, bizarre, and even shameless. Within hours, the clip went viral worldwide, and soon, the internet's collective question became, who was this man and why would he do that? As it turned out, he wasn't just another fan in the crowd. He was a millionaire CEO from Poland, and when his identity was revealed, the scandal shifted from a strange viral video to a full-blown reputation crisis. The moment began right after Kamil Masijak's match at the US Open. The Polish player had just secured a victory, and like many athletes do, he wanted to give something back to the crowd. He spotted a boy sitting near the front, a young fan named Brock, who had been cheering during the game. In a small but meaningful gesture, Masijak removed his cap and extended it toward the boy. It was the type of scene that defines live sports. A young fan gets recognized by a player, a keepsake is passed along, and a lifelong memory is created. But before that moment could play out as intended, something else happened. A man sitting nearby, later identified as Piotr Szczurek, a Polish CEO, reached in, grabbed the cap, and pulled it into his possession. The boy tried to protest, leaning forward as if to say, "That was for me." But it was already too late. The hat was gone, and the player had already walked away. On camera, Brock's expression said everything: shock, confusion, and disappointment. The crowd around him seemed to realize instantly that the gesture had been hijacked. Because the exchange happened so quickly, viewers watching live were unsure what they had just seen, but replay made it undeniable. The cap had been meant for the boy, and Szczurek had taken it instead. The broadcast cut to other angles, showing the boy left empty-handed. In real time, the moment felt uncomfortable, but once the clip was posted online, it became something else entirely. Sports are filled with dramatic twists, but rarely does a fan interaction spark such a reaction. The sight of a grown man taking something clearly intended for a child struck a nerve. The boy's disappointment was easy to understand, and the crowd's instinctive disapproval was hard to miss. What should have been an uplifting highlight had become a viral controversy. The clip of the hat snatch didn't stay confined to the stadium or the live broadcast. Within minutes, it was being shared online. Fans clipped the footage, slowed it down, zoomed in, and posted it across platforms with captions that ranged from mocking to furious. Words like greedy, shameless, and unbelievable accompanied almost every version of the video. By the next morning, the moment had already gone global. Social feeds filled with replays of the incident, each edit highlighting the same sequence. The tennis player extending his cap toward the boy, the child reaching out, and the older man swooping in to take it. The boy's face, clearly disappointed, became the emotional centerpiece of the reaction. What made the moment so viral wasn't just the act itself, but the contrast it represented. On one hand, a professional athlete was trying to create a special fan memory. On the other, a grown man appeared to take that memory away. The imbalance of power between the child and the adult resonated with viewers, sparking outrage far beyond the tennis community. Memes quickly followed. Some depicted the man as a cartoon villain. Others exaggerated the moment with captions about stealing candy from a baby. While many were comedic, the underlying anger was real. Viewers asked, what kind of adult does this on live television? The viral spread showed how quickly public opinion can turn an awkward moment into a full-scale online event. The other question that circulated was identity. Who was this man, and why did he feel entitled to take the cap? Internet users familiar with digging into viral clips began piecing together details from the broadcast. Screenshots of the man circulated, with users asking for a name. The collective investigation had begun, and soon, the answers would surface. What started as a few seconds of confusion had become a trending topic worldwide. The video wasn't just a funny or strange clip. It had become a symbol of selfishness in the eyes of millions of viewers, and the more it spread, the more pressure mounted to find out who the man really was. Once the clip took off online, the internet's investigative side quickly came into play. Social media users began cross-referencing screenshots from the broadcast with other public images. Within hours, people had attached a name to the man in question, Piotr Szczurek, a wealthy businessman from Poland. Szczurek wasn't just a random spectator, he was the CEO of Drogbrook, a paving and construction company. That detail gave the story a new dimension. What had been an odd fan incident was now linked to a person with significant wealth, influence, and a public role. Almost instantly, the backlash grew more intense. Search results for his name started to shift. Instead of business-related pages or neutral company information, Google results filled with links to the viral clip, headlines describing him as the hat thief, and thousands of comments ridiculing his behavior. Memes overtook his company's brand online, making it nearly impossible for someone to look up Drogbrook without being hit with the scandal first. For a CEO, this kind of visibility can be devastating. Reputation and trust are critical in business, and both were under attack. The internet had decided that Szczurek's actions weren't just embarrassing, but defining. His company's online presence, carefully built over years, was suddenly drowned out by a single viral moment. Alongside the identity reveal came debates about motive. Some users speculated he simply acted out of impulse. Others suggested it reflected entitlement or arrogance. Regardless of the reasoning, the fact that his face and name were now tied to the video meant the scrutiny wouldn't fade quickly. By this stage, the incident was no longer a sports highlight gone wrong. It had become a public scandal. The man was identified, his career was connected to the story, and the internet had locked onto the narrative of a wealthy CEO snatching a hat from a child. Once that framing took hold, it shaped every discussion that followed. And while his identity was being dissected, another figure in the story decided not to stay silent, the tennis player himself. While the internet tore apart the CEO's actions, Kamil Maciejczak, the player at the center of the moment, chose to step in. From his perspective, the gift had been intended for a young fan, and it was clear that the exchange had not gone as planned. Rather than ignore what happened, he took to social media with a simple request: help find the boy. The call quickly spread. Fans shared the clip with messages tagging the player and asking for leads. Within a short time, the boy was identified as Brock, a young tennis enthusiast who had been sitting near the court during the match. Maciejczak followed through. He arranged to meet Brock in person, away from the chaos of the original scene. When they met, he made sure the experience was as positive as possible. The boy received signed memorabilia, photos with the player, and the chance to connect directly with the athlete he had been cheering for. For Brock, the disappointment of the stolen moment was replaced with a far better memory. For the public, it offered a clear contrast. A professional athlete going out of his way to make things right, while the CEO remained silent. The gesture reinforced the player's reputation for humility and respect for his fans. It also deepened the criticism aimed at Szczurek. While the tennis star repaired the damage, the man responsible for the controversy had yet to address it at all. That silence only added to the pressure on him to speak. As the outrage intensified, Piotr Szczurek could no longer remain silent. Days after the incident, he released a formal statement through his company's website. For many, this was the moment they had been waiting for. An explanation, an apology, or at least an acknowledgement of what had unfolded on live television. In his statement, Szczurek said he believed the cap was being handed to him, not the boy. He explained that earlier in the match, his sons had asked for autographs, and in the commotion of the crowd, he thought the tennis player was directing the gesture toward them. According to him, it was all a misunderstanding. He expressed regret, apologizing to the boy, his family, the fans, and the player himself. He admitted that the situation had spiraled out of control and recognized the disappointment it caused. However, the phrasing of the apology raised questions. In one section, he described the boy as injured, a choice of words that many believed was the result of mistranslation. Whether he meant emotional distress or physical harm wasn't clear, and the ambiguity fueled further debate. Szczurek also addressed the growing number of viral posts claiming to be from him, his wife, or his lawyers. He denied writing or authorizing any of them. According to him, he never threatened legal action against critics, never posted defensive remarks, and never dismissed the incident publicly. He called these circulating statements fabrications designed to intensify the drama. To protect his family, he limited or disabled comments on his official post. On paper, it looked like a responsible move to reduce harassment, but in practice, it only made many viewers more suspicious. Some interpreted it as avoiding accountability rather than addressing criticism directly. While the statement technically checked the expected boxes of apology and clarification, it didn't stop the backlash. If anything, it shifted the conversation from silence to skepticism. On paper, Piotr Szczerek's statement seemed to cover the essentials: an explanation, an apology, and a denial of false rumors. But once people compared his words to the footage, the gap was hard to ignore. In the video, Szczerek didn't just reach casually for the cap, he snatched it with clear intent, even as the boy reached out at the same time. The child pulled back and appeared to say something in protest, but Szczerek held on and walked away. To the millions who replayed the clip, the action looked deliberate. That visual evidence clashed directly with his version of events. Claiming he thought the cap was meant for his children might have made sense if the handoff had been ambiguous, but the footage showed the opposite. A player looking directly at the boy and leaning in his direction. For most viewers, the misunderstanding explanation didn't hold up. This is why the apology landed poorly. Rather than acknowledging what people saw, it leaned on confusion and mistranslation. It gave the impression of damage control rather than full accountability. The reference to the boy being injured only added to the sense that the statement was more carefully managed than sincerely written. Public reaction reflected this skepticism. Comments across platforms dismissed the apology as hollow. Many argued that had the video not been captured, no apology would have ever been issued. Others pointed out that limiting comments suggested avoidance, not openness. In scandals shaped by viral clips, perception often outweighs words. The footage told one story, and Szczerek's explanation told another. With such a clear mismatch, the public chose to believe the video. Instead of calming the outrage, the apology gave it new fuel. It became part of the narrative, not as a step toward resolution, but as further evidence that the CEO wasn't being fully honest. As the video continued to circulate, new claims began appearing online. Some posts alleged that Piotr Szczerek had snapped at the boy during the incident, supposedly telling him he didn't deserve the cap. Others suggested that his legal team was preparing to take action against people criticizing him on social media. Screenshots of supposed statements from his wife or lawyers also began spreading, further inflaming the outrage. The problem was that none of these claims could be verified. Major news outlets covering the story pointed out that the quotes had no reliable source. Still, the posts spread quickly, repeated across forums, Twitter threads, and comment sections as if they were fact. Szczerek addressed this directly in his official statement. He denied making any such remarks, denied threatening lawsuits, and insisted that neither his wife nor his legal team had posted anything related to the controversy. According to him, these were fabrications created to stir up even more drama. The clarification didn't change much. By the time he denied the rumors, they had already shaped public perception. Once a narrative takes hold online, fact-checking rarely travels as fast as speculation. The false quotes and exaggerated claims merged with the original incident, making it harder for him to separate truth from rumor. In practical terms, this meant the scandal had grown larger than the actual event. It was no longer just about the hat. It was about alleged insults, legal threats, and defensive comments that many people assumed were real. Even though none of that could be confirmed, it deepened the damage to his reputation. For Szczerek, the situation showed how quickly misinformation can attach itself to a viral moment, turning one misstep into a storm of half-truths and falsehoods. The fallout from the incident extended far beyond a single viral clip. For Piotr Szczerek, the damage touched both his personal image and his company's reputation. Drogbrook, the paving and construction business he led, found its online presence reshaped almost overnight. Search results that once highlighted projects and contracts were now dominated by headlines and memes about the US Open incident. For a CEO, this type of visibility can be more damaging than financial loss. Reputation in business is closely tied to credibility, and credibility is difficult to rebuild once it's questioned. Years of community initiatives and sponsorships meant to portray Drogbrook as supportive of youth and athletics were drowned out by the viral moment. One short video effectively erased years of carefully cultivated goodwill. On a personal level, Szczerek's name became synonymous with entitlement. Whether fair or not, the internet defined him by those few seconds of footage. The label of hat snatcher overshadowed his achievements, wealth, and role as a business leader. Meanwhile, Kamil Masiejczak continued his tournament but eventually had to retire due to injury. His withdrawal barely registered compared to the ongoing scandal. The contrast between the player's goodwill toward a fan and the CEO's actions kept the story alive long after the match itself was forgotten. In the digital age, reputational damage often outlasts the original event. For Shrek, the real impact wasn't just losing the public's trust in the moment, but the possibility that the video would continue to resurface, defining him long after the controversy fades.